Our planet's southernmost continent is the most uninhabited land on the face of the Earth. It is not without trying and efforts made by researchers and explorers that this land seems to be shrouded in mystery, more rather due to the area being located directly top of the South Pole, and because of this fact, appears to be amongst the most inhospitable places in the world to visit. However, new and upcoming evidence appears to have challenged this notion of inhabitation, as relics of an ancient civilization appears to have surfaced only recently. So, today, we will be uncovering these lost ancient relics and the history of the Antarctic. Both an unending tundra and an everlasting desert, Antarctica is noted as being the very last region of Earth in recorded history to be discovered. Antarctica was regarded as a land unseen until that of 1820, when the famed Russian expedition of Fabian and Mikhail first wrote about the sighting of the Fimbul ice shelf and other evidence of a large continent located at the southernmost region of the world. Despite this discovery, however, the continent remained largely ignored and neglected for the entire 19th century, supposedly due to the land's hostile environment, lack of easily accessible resources, and terrible isolation. It really was not until the end of the 1800s that people began to even realise that the land existed in the first place and began including it on maps and globes around the world. Oddly enough, though it was only recently discovered, myths of this land had been circulating amongst underground communities for quite a few centuries, but was often disregarded by supposed experts as nothing more than a fantasy or legend. In fact, many theorists believed that there was a continent in the region and had even went so far as naming the theoretical land Terra Australis, which roughly translated to the Southern Land, an idea that dates back to antiquity and is lost to time. No one knows where the myths of the Southern Land started, who knew of it, and how far back into human history it stretches. But it was definitely regarded as being information only shared amongst tight-knit communities, secret societies, and underground groups. The strangeness of the myths of Antarctica do not stop there, as the first sightings of ancient buildings in the region were first made by the ancient astronaut community that was attempting to prove an interesting idea. Around the world, we find evidence of pyramid structures that have often challenged our modern notion of the age of humanity and the technological and developmental might of our early civilizations. Given that these great structures are often found in areas that predate archaeological beliefs of early human civilizations, then discovering the location of these pyramids that humans have never been could prove to be the smoking gun evidence of possible extraterrestrial intervention. The ancient alien community then pointed at Antarctica and said that given its only recent discovery and completely uninhabitable terrain, to find such a structure amongst its icy lands would be more than enough evidence to prove such a theory. Using complex gathered research data and satellite imaging, the community worked day and night in the hopes of uncovering any evidence of these structures. Fortunately, they did. Approximately larger than the pyramids at Giza, the ancient astronaut community began noticing strange mountains that did not seem to match with the overall landscape of the region. Not only did these supposed large mountains not exist anywhere close to a mountain range, but in the region in which it inhabited did not appear to even have the stresses or strains of the tectonic plates that could cause a potential mountain range in the first place. Not only this, but the size of the mountain in that area ended up displaying the proportions of a perfect pyramid, with 4 even sides, a symmetrical peak, and the same degree in slope gradient compared to the large pyramids at Giza. Images of these structures in high definition can also be found thanks to efforts made by researchers to locate the peaks of the mountains in the attempts to disprove these satellite images, but only worked to prove their existence and showcase their symmetrical and artificial design in clearer imaging. Could it be then that perhaps a much more powerful advanced civilization with the means of producing such megalithic structures could have inhabited the region long before humans could have ever even discovered its existence in the first place? An interesting fact to take into consideration is the history of the region. What many people do not know is that Antarctica was once a lush and dense forest, with a population to match long before it became the wasteland it is most notably known as today. Evidence of this can be found when looking at a team of archaeologists and researchers that led an expedition in Antarctica in November of 2016 that lasted for several months, ending on January of 2017. The team found shocking evidence of lush forests in the region after locating and identifying a large amount of fossil fragments from ancient trees that dated as far back as more than 260 million years. Interestingly enough, this timeline correlates with one very important event in the past, the Permian period, also known as the greatest mass extinction event in the history of the world. It is interesting then to consider this idea that roughly 260 million years ago, the continent of Antarctica would have been a densely populated lush green forest with a tremendous variation in wildlife and ecosystems. A professor at the University of Wisconsin, known as Dr. Gulbranson, argues that the continent as a whole was much warmer and even more humid than many areas today. In fact, he has overwhelming evidence that the area would have been closer in resemblance to the boreal forest of present-day Siberia, a place today with a thriving population, vast resources, and a stable economy. Now, of course, you might be thinking that if Antarctica has not been a thriving land for such a long time, then how could it be that there has been any activity of human life and construction on this continent? There really could not have been any way that humans could have built any types of megalithic structures on the continent in the time that humans even came into existence. But that is entirely the point that is being made. If any relics are found, then it is without a doubt evidence of a past advanced civilization that is not human, as there is no way human beings could be responsible for its creation. But to construct such structures, these advanced races would have been able to also create large biodomes or cityscapes for their own people. Oddly enough, we have evidence for this discovery as well. A post of unknown origin began circling across many deep websites and underground conspiracy theorist blogs that talked about satellite evidence of supposed crashed spaceships or possible alien megacities located in the Antarctic. The coordinates for these structures will be provided in the description below, and these strange artificial shapes can be seen by anyone who uses Google Earth and punches in said coordinates. Taking a look at these strange structures, it is fairly obvious to see that they hold many characteristics with sightings of commonly reported unidentified flying objects. They appeared to be an extremely long cigar-shaped object. Not only that, but the build-up of the snow due to wind direction helps to show that each of these strange objects that total 22 structures appeared to be all facing in the same direction, designed with the exact same size, and are taller than any other natural forming peaks in the region that is mostly flat due to a lack of tectonic pressure. All of these pieces of information point to an artificial creation and not naturally forming structures or mountain ranges. Could it be that these structures are overwhelming evidence for the ancient alien community and proof of these possible ancient megalithic structures that we see with satellite imaging? Most likely. The reason for this is a little more frustrating than past evidence and theory would tell you. Many people amongst these communities believe that possibly the government is well aware of these hidden structures and possible alien artifacts, and that they are attempting to hide these findings from the rest of the world by ignoring the area altogether or not approving of further expeditions and archaeological expertise. That might be the case, but it is much more realistic that the main cause for these refusals are more accurately due to political and economic reasons and not that of a massive cover-up. You see, Antarctica, as far as the governments of the world care, really does not exist. The first real attempts at construction on the continent was made by research scientists who were privately funded or had some sort of means to make their way to the icy continent. These research scientists came from all around the world and were only interested in one thing: science and discovery. Due to this passion, the original research development teams came together and formed the Antarctic Treaty, a required pact that made it impossible for anyone to make claims of territory and enforces open knowledge for everyone. It is due to this treaty that governments from around the world refuse to even participate into any developments onto the icy continent in fear that their equipment, technology, and infrastructure would just be stolen, reverse engineered, or completely destroyed by other governments upholding the treaty. So until an independent third party with private funding puts in the initiative to investigate these strange sights and satellite images, there will be no further discoveries or breakthroughs made. But what do you think of these strange sightings and discoveries made in the most unexplored land of the world? Be sure to let us know by leaving your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community and work to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.